Hi, I know how I want to do this. This is the same way that I begin teaching my students how to write, or what I tell them when I'm teaching them. And that is that beginnings for me are the hardest part. It's really kind of strange, maybe. It wouldn't You might not perceive that from someone who is so open to novelty and possibility, which I think that that's me in a lot of ways. I also can be really stubborn about certain things that I think that I'm right about, but luckily for everyone, those things are really, really deep undercurrents of knowing and being. And so usually they don't come into conflict with people that I encounter in my just daily life. But yeah, so beginnings are the hardest part for me, which I think is interesting when kind of a more common narrative is that endings are the hardest part. For me, I kind of love an ending. It means that something has been completed. It's finished. It's done, and now there is just not that much to do except celebrate. And in that celebration, maybe we'll come up with a new idea for something else we want to do. But right now, there's no agenda. That's the space that I like to be when it's done. So I don't know why I deprive myself of that so often. It's very difficult for me to complete tasks that I set out to do for myself. Maybe I don't think that I'm worthy. I'm not sure. Somebody should psychoanalyze that situation. But I need to make a commentary, honestly, and then I will talk for a moment about some things that I think really matter and are important. The first one is, I started a PhD program in August of 2020, which I'm still currently enrolled in at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. When I started that program in media, technology, and communication, I was coming from a 2-year stint where I had given birth to my second child, and I was working as a contract communications advisor for an international peace and nonviolence organization. And yeah, so I came into my PhD program during the start of COVID-19. So when I moved, actually, it was in the height of COVID-19 in the summer with my family, from my home state of Alabama to the state of North Carolina. And it didn't last that long because it was such an extraordinary trial of endurance for all of us, with 2 children. One was supposed to be starting kindergarten in a school and instead was starting kindergarten on an iPad, and the other was not yet 2 years old. It was a really interesting experience, to say the least. And about that same time, actually, no, not at the same time, when I came home, when our family came home for the holidays, there was a day where Jupiter and Saturn conjoined, I think it's 0 or maybe 1 degree Aquarius. And this was an astrological event that got picked up by some mainstream news outlets, because people were calling it the Bethlehem Star, saying that this could have been a similar situation to what may have been observed by the wise men and the Magi some 2022 years ago at the birth of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. This was the storyline. I'm just repeating to you what I heard. And so around the same time, I was becoming interested in astrology not as a kind of consumer commercial, like something that I could consume for myself, but as a very interesting symbolic language, very rich in meaning. And like I said, I was also in the first semester of getting a PhD in media technology and communication at one of the top communication programs in the country at the time. And so these were just some of the, this is just to give you some background information on how I came into the world of astrology. There was this astrological event at the same time that I was having some extraordinary personal changes going on in my own life. Well, actually, this would have been the entrance of Saturn into Aquarius, which is the home sign of both my moon and my natal Saturn. It's just a grand entrance that Saturn made in my life world and in my pursuit of knowledge and understanding through the symbolic language of astrology. So that was, I think, maybe December 20th, around that, December 20th, 2020. And now here we are, almost 2 years later, and Saturn's big, heavy self, Daddy Saturn, as I like to call him, has decided that he's ready to exit the beautiful, beautiful sign of Aquarius, and I'm overjoyed about it, really thrilled. But I gotta tell you, really, my entire life has just been rocked. I heard when I was talking to my friend whose Saturn is in Pisces, which is coming up, that like the more in alignment you are and the more prepared that you are for some kind of like extraordinary transit like this, the less kind of abrasive and rude Saturn is when he is transiting your situation. For me in my house, in my 4th house, moon and Saturn, apparently I'd just been living way out of alignment. And so Daddy came home and he was like big mad. So now I need to like update. I need a system update because I really respect my dad. I have great love for my father, and this is true both in the metaphorical sense and in the real world sense. And I will talk about my dad, and I think my dad is going to be a part of the situation. So yay. So what I want to say though is I have 3 videos on YouTube. This is number 3. I'm not in a brand pattern yet. So like, please bear with me as I try to decide how best to communicate with an unknown and unknowable audience that currently, as I'm recording this and like the reality of my life, does not exist at all. And this is interesting. How does thinking work? How do we plan for a future that is like so beyond our ability to understand? And what makes us think that we know how we could even plan for that, you know? These are some challenges that maybe you would think of if you spent all of your time thinking and philosophizing and trying to get PhDs and professional astrology certificates like me. If you don't do that, then like, don't feel bad. Just watch my stuff. I'll tell you about it. I'll give you some Cliff's notes. Okay, so Cliff Notes number 3. Well, the first video that's on here is a video that I recorded for my students when I was teaching in August of 2020. Back when I was like I had only experienced 1 little Saturn transit to my moon, like things were fine. I was just thinking about some structures and meaning that I needed to put in place. I had no idea what was coming for me. But yeah, I was still like lighthearted and fresh. So then, let's see, I think maybe like a year later is the next video on here, from October of this year. And this would have been the day that Saturn had already transited my moon at 1 degree Aquarius, had gone past my Saturn at 18 degrees Aquarius and was now retrograde back to 18 degrees Aquarius and just chilling on my stuff, you know? It was like so heavy, like I was not at my best. Things were raveling for me, and whether you want to call that unraveling or like raveling together, who knows? But like, you can clearly see in that situation that I'm not like in a state of great peace and security within, which is fine, honestly, like, because hi, look at me now. You know, like that's what happens, is like sometimes you have to let yourself go to that place and be like, look, this is a little crazy. Like, how did I get into this particular spot right here? Like, this feels very extraordinary. But instead of trying to like fight the current, you just gotta float on your back sometimes. And that's absolutely what I was doing. And I think like in time, some of the details behind this extraordinary pressure that I was experiencing to really just like talk to a computer, honestly, which is funny. If you know, as you get to know me, you will know that I have like big technology aversion issues. It's weird. I have a strange relationship with technology. But yeah, I think this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. Well, actually, the other thing that I will say is part of how, so some differences between like myself and maybe some other astrologers who are in the current right now. I decided early on, and this was like such an organic and slow growth process of like me coming into this place of knowing and studying astrology as an art form and a language, and yeah, like understanding that you could actually build a professional practice, I think, around these things. Like it just, I'm a scientist. I'm a social scientist. To me, astrology is like what I thought of it as, like kind of woo-woo, you know, like, or like religion, you know. Like I chose and was comfortable in my social scientific approach to the world because it was not a theological approach to the world. And I needed some kind of objectivity to be able to like sort through what was and wasn't true, what was and wasn't real. And social science did that for me for several years until it kind of got to a limit where the questions that I had, what I was asking, what I wanted to know, what was most compelling to me, it seemed that there was no longer a structure in place for me to pursue those kinds of things. And so astrology really allowed me to continue my exploration of thought, of consciousness, of like expansion of my being, where I thought that maybe there were no guardrails or nothing to hold on to, which can be a very dangerous thing to do. You can kind of slip and fall off into a state of delusion, and which is not always a bad thing. Sometimes like being a little delusional about something can be just fine, but sometimes it's not, you know. And sometimes you need to be like, honey, the reality is like there's not enough of X to do Y, you know. Like sometimes you need that objective measurement. And yeah, let's see. I think, yeah, I think that, okay, I was a social scientist. Then I discovered astrology. Now I'm still a social scientist, like kind of. I had to take a break. It was really weighing on me. The questions of existence are heavy questions. The thoughts that they generate in the process that you have to endure in order to come to some semblance of an answer and understanding. It's really like a marathon situation. And yeah, I'm not in the clear yet. Saturn still has 10 more degrees of Aquarius to traverse before he makes his way into the sweet sign of Pisces, which, hello, Pisces babies. And then don't worry though, Pluto's coming right behind him. But like, hopefully this is a situation where if Saturn and Aquarius already like came through with the, demolition and like renovation of your life world, then Pluto will just be bringing like the decorations and the art, that's my hope anyway. And I think that like that's my prayer, and I think my prayer deserves to be answered, honestly, because like, hello, I've done the most. I'm just kidding, kind of, chill out. But yeah, okay, so now what happened was one time last July, my mom had a big birthday party, and we had some women come and spend the night at our house out in rural Alabama. And as part of this, we went out late into the night and looked at the stars, and I told the women there a little bit about their birth charts. And it was such a beautiful experience. But it was also at the end of it, my mom and like some of the other women who have been like basically like secondary mothers, just very close to me my whole life, were like, wait, what have you been doing in your PhD program? Like, clearly you've been spending so much time studying this because like, you know a lot. And I was like, oh, do I? I thought it was just fun. Anyway, but then it started to like, I started to consider the practice of astrology in a different way. And then this year, just a couple weeks ago, I've now started a certification course in professional Hellenistic astrology through the program that is offered by Elenbaas and Nightlight Astrology, which for whatever reason, just as the tech would have it be. I think that there are probably a lot of astrology courses or podcasts maybe out there. I don't know, because that's the point, is kind of analog, kind of not on the computers. And the things that come to me are like ritual habits, kind of, that I like that bring me comfort. And so basically my like ritual habit of tuning in to Nightlight Astrology to like stay abreast on the transits or like whatever else Elenbaas wants to talk about, that is how I do it. So yeah, I like it like that. And I am now taking his professional, like his course that I can get certified to be a professional astrologer. And then when I do that, I will come up with some way to like systematically share content about astrology, because I did realize in the course of this transit of Saturn to my 4th house and my moon and just all this really wild situation, that astrology has a place in my life. And but if I'm going to be this closely involved with technology and with like communication to others, all of that, then I need to be a little bit more mindful about my approach and to approach this in a way that might bring joy to others, also like serve others, and not just be some kind of like weird time suck and like self-referential feedback loop for me. You know, like I need to talk about it. So that's what I want to do. And yeah, I'll clean it up, you know, like I'll get a brand or something and like a TikTok strategy. But right now, just coming to you with the reality. And talk soon.